Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and this gold chain wearing dude to my side here, that's really cool, man. I thought it was a Mr. T. No, it's a Mr. B. A1 Mr. Brian E. Roach. I paid a fool who's missed you, Brian. I missed you, buddy. Welcome back from Vegas, man.
Absolutely.
It looks like you did you win at the slot machines or the tables? What's going on? Or that's
you want to know how much money I put on the line in Vegas?
Probably less. You probably found a nickel somewhere lying on the sidewalk, and you came out with extra that way.
Big fat hairy zero. That's because I like my money and I don't like giving it away. So
I've spent the last time I went was for wedding anniversary, so I allotted for some change. But for the most part, I've been lucky in casinos, man. I've been all but in that one trip to Vegas. I've pretty much walked out with money. I'm talking about like there's been times where I've parked in the deck at Rivers Casino down in Pittsburgh, and you have to wait. There's a billion people going on the elevator. This was a preseason game. Usually I would never park in any of those decks. I hate it. I know you don't mind, but from another aspect, I just decided, I'm like, hey, I'm going to sit here and throw $20 in this slot machine and end up walking out with like $1.50 or something. So, I mean, I've just been, knock on wood, St. Patrick's Day around the corner. I've been lucky. I've been finding the 4-leaf clovers, but I haven't played.
I'm not gonna tell you you're full of it because I believe you're absolutely true. But I will tell you, the number of people who I talk to who gamble, who always tell me, well, I actually think I'm coming out ahead, would mean that all casinos are out of business because nobody would ever lose. So it's at some point that rationality fails miserably. But my point is, I already know I'm going to lose because I don't have any luck. Therefore, screw that. I'm not giving them my money.
There's only certain games that I'll actually play, and I've lost my ass playing some poker games over the years too. I've had good luck with limit. I was in a no limit tournament in Vegas and was out like almost immediately. That's because I hadn't played Hold'em in ages.
Think of it this way, right? If I give Vegas my money, then I don't have enough money to give people $200 full size helmets for free. So there you go. I'd rather give stuff to people who support us than to give it to Vegas because the hell with that.
I'm in that same boat sometimes. I tell the kid the same thing. It's like I have a saying. It's like I could spend $5 on something worse. And I find the entertainment value of gambling, but I'm not the kind of guy that goes in and is like, okay, I'm here to make money. It's like, if I'm going to drop $100 in a casino, and that's like chump change. There's people that are like, they'll burn through that in like seconds. I got
stories for you, my friend.
I'm a penny slot. I'm a penny slots and poker guy. That's the only two things I touch. And so now that we've turned into a full-fledged gambling show, what other contraband can we talk about while we're on?
Well, I could tell you. I could tell you what I did spend my money on in Vegas.
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
It's 420 somewhere, my brother.
Hey, to each their own. I mean, that's not my thing. I'm the craft beer guy, and they were finally getting some breweries popping up. But it's been a minute since I've been to Vegas. I got to get back there sometime. I know everybody's got casinos everywhere. I think I've got like 3 of them within a half hour of where I live now, and I'm just in Ohio. So I know Vegas isn't necessarily the destination, but there's something different about downtown and the Strip and stuff like that. I enjoy.
There's just no comparison between regional casinos in Vegas. It just isn't. And I'm not saying it's a good thing because it ain't my scene, right? Vegas is not my scene. I was very uncomfortable there. I didn't like it. It's too many damn people, and they're all weird. But that's okay. The weird part is my scene. So, because I'm weird. Clearly, I'm weird.
Still got the guys clapping the cards together to go see the girls or whatever shows. They used to sit there and they make that noise with like the business cards. Yeah, it was.
I'd had to go outside of the hotel to do that.
Well, don't touch the mini bar in some of these hotels, or you'll find an expensive lesson too. But the point of the expense. Hey, there's a point to this. There's a segue.
These are in the mini bar, and guess what? I think Red Bull must must be looking out for all of us because they could not charge more for these Red Bulls than what I normally pay. I was surprised.
Hey, that's convenience there. But speaking of charging and costs, can we do a great big fat I told you so on some of the news? We didn't record yesterday. And
there you go.
Thank God we didn't record. We would have, number one, the content created itself for today, all right?
Oh, yes, absolutely it did.
So that helps, because if I would have had to have talked about the rumor dropped, and it was like, well, the Steelers, one of 4 teams may be interested in Aaron Rodgers if, the big if, he doesn't return to the Green Bay Packers, and
all the money. He just got all the money.
These State Farm guys. I mean, this just tells you insurance might be a sham. There's no discount. The Rodgers rate and the Mahomes rate. These guys are
Rodgers
banking,
rate
man.
is, yeah, that's some scratch, man.
Holy cow!
So everybody who wanted Aaron Rodgers to come here, really? You were upset about Ben's contract? Really? 4 years for a 39-year-old or 38-year-old quarterback, however old the hold he is? Okay. Who's won once? Once? Oh, yeah. What a bargain. What a steal. What a Rodgers rate.
I'll tell you what. I actually said this in the article Monday. I've been doing the argument series. Now, this one's already outdated, but, well, the information's still valid. He says there's no chance he's coming to Pittsburgh now, so that's why it's outdated. But my number one headline for Aaron Rodgers, my arguments against, was, what will he cost? I said, this could be a $50 million question. Literally. And it was. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
And I just said that facetiously. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but, oh, Brian, I mean, it's just they're backing up the trucks. We got an actual salary cap now, so 208 and change is no longer a myth, rumor, or speculation. That's been finalized by the league since we last came on the air. And Aaron Rodgers, of course, returning 4-year extension, $200 million, if you want to know what that is. And however they spread that out will be interesting because the Packers, how are they going to re-sign like Devontae Adams or put any kind of team around this guy? He was already costing them. I'm trying to pull this up. I had the figures.
To be fair, I think his cap number for this year at least went down. I'm sure I haven't looked at the details of the contract, but I'm sure it's backloaded. I'm sure that they have the ability to not pay him. Although it's $154 million guaranteed. That's guaranteed money. I mean, holy crap.
That almost sounds like one of our promos when we have one of our sponsors on right here. But what Rodgers had already in the kitty here for the Packers was a $46.6 million cap number. Now they've just given him. What'd you say? How much was it guaranteed? Over 150.
$154 million.
154. So they already had a void year of 7.6. They already have 4.6 in it, and of that, 26.8 was dead this season. So if he moved on, they would have saved 19.8, but they still would have had to pay 26.8 and 7.6, and now they have to pay at least 154, and they're adding on 4 years, so 23, 24, 25, and 26 will be the seasons if he plays all of that. And then how many more void years or what? I don't understand how they spread that. I know what they're thinking. I know what some of these teams are thinking, and this is the reason why the Steelers are going to be able to do. I went over some of the strategy. You may or may not have heard the show I did at the end of last week, but I was talking about where they might spend the money, and particularly I was looking at offensive line and free agents. We're going to look at the secondary maybe later in the week because we've already, face it, we got off track and don't have as much time to cover that today, and we may have some more news, but I'm just looking at it's the new TV contracts. It's the Amazon exclusive Thursday Night Football. The Sunday ticket package is going to be up for grabs too. So there's all kinds of new money to where I think teams are expecting this cap to go up to 220 or more in the next year. It's not going to be this COVID thing where it dropped substantially from 198 to 182, which was, that would have been the same cap they had in like 2018, which I've mentioned before, just a little bit over. So that royally screwed the Steelers as far as fielding a team. And I continue to mention some of these things, and we're going to bring up the other guy, my guy now that went to the Denver Broncos. My favorite non-Steeler, Russell Wilson, is part of this too, because it's like, how much are you going to mortgage the future? You've already got a Green Bay team that, Oh my goodness, they are. The Rodgers stuff isn't updated yet because they don't have the full details on overthecap.com. But they're $45.8 million over the cap right now, and that's with the cap being set at 208 and change. I mean, there's some guys that got to get going here, and I don't know how they do this with Devontae Adams and that. But you talk about the Steelers with like 28.8. Without making any kind of moves, and I'll get your opinion on this here. I keep saying they're not going to make more holes by getting rid of somebody, let's say Joe Schobert, because the big news was, of course, Russell Wilson going to the Broncos, but talking in salary cap stuff, Bobby Wagner, his longtime teammate, also released yesterday as well. Going to be 32 years old if he isn't already. I think 32 in June. Great player, by the way. Absolutely love Bobby. I'm not just like a closet Seahawks fan or something like this. In fact, sometimes I can't stand Pete Carroll. I respect him, can't stand him, kind of like John Harbaugh. But love Bobby Wagner, but people are immediately like, hey, let's go grab the guy who's been averaging 16, 18 million a season for the last 3 years and 10 to 12 the previous 4 before that, which are all figures higher than Joe Schobert. In fact, Bobby Wagner made as much last season, and he was going to be a $20 million guy this season. That's more than what they're paying Schobert and Bush combined. But you know what? We're going to still owe Joe Schobert some money, cut him, and then go sign a guy that's more expensive and older. I just don't see it. And some people be like, well, hey, he's really a great player. Yeah, for maybe one season. The Steelers don't usually operate with that just one season kind of mentality.
No, that's not their long-term philosophy. They don't generally try and mortgage the future for the present. They built based on consistency and trying to be as good as they can be. Now, that being said, if they feel like they can make an improvement, they'll make an improvement. That's also been a foundational piece of their thinking. If we can improve a position, we will. But there are a lot of factors that go into that. Not just, he's a better player, but yeah, is he going to be a better player for 3 seasons, or is he going to be maybe a better player this year, but we're taking a risk because he's at that age where performance can start to drop off drastically. Look, they may inquire what it would cost to get him, and if the cost is not what they're willing to risk, fine. They're not. They're not going to. They're going to do what they have to do to take care of what they have in place right now before they start to venture out and do whatever it is. Now, whether Joe Schobert is in the long-term plans or not, I can't answer that question yet. Did I think he underperformed last season? I do. But it was also his first season. He came into a moving train. He didn't probably just, you never know what'll happen. Plus, Devin Bush wasn't at capacity, so to speak, last season. Next season, you never know what the two of them can do together. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. Will I be surprised if Schobert is back? No. Will I be surprised if he's not? No.
Yeah, I think too much is made, maybe, of his contract. I brought up Wagner. He was a 4-year there was an extension, so it's unfair to say that. But his base salary, well, let's just go with his cap numbers, because this is what's important for the Steelers. 15.8 was in 2019. I mean, we're talking about 28.8. In order to sign a guy like this, and he's not coming anywhere, I think, for just a 1-year deal. At his age, 31,
absolutely. He doesn't need to have a prove-it deal. He's been proving it for years.
He's been a Pro Bowl guy since 2014 and an All-Pro many times over. So I'm not trying to say...
He wants to go someplace he can win. That's he's going to want to go someplace he can win. He might take less money to be in a place he thinks he can win. But
Pittsburgh's still that place, though.
Not right now.
I don't think they have that clout like that. That's not Tom Brady in New England type situation. Yeah.
Look.
Come play for Tomlin.
I don't want to get into quarterbacks again, but nobody is coming to Pittsburgh and going, Mason Rudolph's going to take me to the promised land. Nobody is thinking that yet, okay?
Yeah, and my stance on that has been defending him from a whole different aspect. It's the same thing with all these other quarterbacks now, which now all the other names are popping up out of the woodshed. Trubisky and Mariota again, and Trubisky bothers me because he fumbles, Mariota gets sacked and fumbles, and Jameis Winston does all of those things and throws a lot of picks on top of it. And I don't care for any of those guys, because those guys make negative plays and lose you games and really aren't any better of an option than just rolling with Rudolph and Haskins can make those same mistakes, but we don't know that they will make those mistakes. And I would much rather save the money and build the rest of the team, and then maybe you can look somewhere else the following year.
I said I didn't want to talk about quarterbacks.
And I'm not really talking about quarterbacks. I'm still on Bobby Wagner, but here's the point with that. It's like everybody thinks you're going to get some type of discount, team-friendly, whatever. This isn't a team-friendly player here. This is a guy that's still going to bank a 2 or 3 year deal somewhere.
The only team that might get a team-friendly discount right now for Bobby Wagner is the Denver Broncos, which leads us into the other thing. And that's really because you should be afraid of that team right now.
But he is, let me put it this way. People will be like, what? You wouldn't take Bobby Wagner? Yeah, under the right conditions, but is he going to take the same type of contract? Let me see. Let me find Schobert here. I just had him up. No, I had the Packers up. The Rodgers rate. Here we go. Let me see. Schobert. And this is like people just like they get upset because of certain contracts. So you got T.J. Watt's the king of the hill here. If you sign Bobby Wagner, he's going to be at worst the third highest paid Steeler because you got Cam Hayward with a 17.4 cap number. You got T.J. with 31.1, of course, because he had the land milestone type deal there. And Stephon too. It's just a shy of 14. And then Minka will get an extension, but his fifth-year option's paying him 10. And then there's Schobert sitting here at 9.7, which I brought up Vince Williams. Vince Williams was making between 6 and 8, and I believe the number that he made as he retired last year, released, then retired, was $8 million.
Yeah.
You're not getting Bobby Wagner for $8 million.
No.
You're still going to be paying Joe Schobert. Let me see, what's his dead cap? It's not a ton. His dead money's 1.8. You could say 7.8. So you're losing money when you cut him if you pay his replacement any more than 7.8.
I don't think you're getting Bobby Wagner for under 10.
No, ain't no way. I think he's going to sign for 15, 16. Now, he's not. He may not realize. I get it. He hasn't really missed games. He's been steady. So bringing his age into it, but still, age is a consideration. You slow down, and you're at more of a risk to potentially tear or pull something that didn't happen before.
Somebody will overpay. That's just the way it is, right? It's not that he's a bad player. He's a very good player. He's a potential Hall of Fame player, right?
Oh, yeah.
But somebody's going to overpay because that's what happens in free agency. People overpay. They have a need at that position, and they will pay what it takes to fill it. And they won't win.
I was trying to see. I'm trying to see here. Let's see. Trying to find the year that was just he was base salary for Wagner was 16.3.
Yeah, I mean he's not going to dip way below that number.
His cap was 20.3.
I'd be stunned if he took a deal for under 12. But that doesn't mean he won't. It just it's the right circumstance. Then it's the way he wins. I haven't looked enough to see where needs are for that position across all areas. It's just, I get people weren't enamored of Joe Schobert. People weren't enamored of Devin Bush last year. Did they perform fantastically? No. To be fair, they didn't. Did they perform at the bottom of the barrel? No, they didn't do that either. But people always over negatize. I'm making up words again. Negatize.
I like that one. I get on board with
you
that.
You negatized it.
They do. They negatize everything.
The performance that they did have, and so they want to. Everybody always shiny penny, shiny new toy, whatever it is. Somebody new. Oh, we got to bring him in. Whatever. They're not going to bring back Bobby Wagner. It's very unlikely, and it doesn't make them immediate contenders to do so. So they're not going to.
I hate to inform people, and this is something that was coming up. 170 combined tackles, which is the most he's had in his career mostly. Now, the number I threw out there, his cap number was actually 20.3, just so we have that, because the bonuses in last year, it was 17.1 with a 13.1 base salary. So even if he doesn't play, he signs a 3-year contract, he doesn't play that full deal.
Right.
It might
Absolutely
be a 2-year
possible.
deal, plays one of those things. I'm thinking myself, it's like, I don't know how rooted he is where he lives and everything like that. Is there like a major move involved with all this? This guy might just say, screw it. I've made a ton of money and retire too. And I mean, Seahawks are looking to, obviously they're going to rebuild. I'm surprised Pete Carroll's still there, to be completely honest. I think they're going to be in a deep transition now. Obviously, shuttering Russell Wilson, but that Seahawks defense was not good last year. And so, I mean, Bobby Wagner, yes, not even just good. Bobby Wagner, I would say, is great. Guys like him, Fred Warner, absolutely. Okay, you're looking at your inside linebackers, and obviously we can't say good necessarily about Schobert and Bush, but we constantly have brought up how everything else was in disarray. You had plenty of injuries along the defensive front with the Steelers. The inside linebacker play, if it's Spillane or anybody else, it seems like everybody struggled. And it was just a full collective failure because there was a revolving door. The Steelers' defense looked like the Steelers' offense of 2019 when it came to players cycling in and out at times. You had some of the stars on the field. Sometimes you didn't. You still had – we've already forgotten there's been COVID protocols that some guys got yanked for games where they weren't even hurt, like Chris Wormley, because of these protocols that were still in place. So could Bobby Wagner improve this team? Absolutely. Do I think he's better than Devin Bush or Joe Schobert? Absolutely. Do I think he's $15 to $20 million better? I don't see the Steelers making that big a splash. And I went through some of this, and I'm going to repeat again. 28-8, Brian, we said the priorities, probably Terrell Edmunds or Ahkello Witherspoon. The more and more and more and more I think about it, and I say Witherspoon thinking / Hayden, you got to have a starting corner. So when I say Witherspoon, my preference is the younger guy who started to show some promise. So I've just wrote off Hayden because he's going to be 33. I think he's at the end of the line. No disrespect to him, great player, but even if they brought him back, I'd be nervous that he could play a full season. So at that and what he made, too, and what he got paid. I think the money is earmarked for a starting corner for Witherspoon or Edmunds, or a starting safety if it's not Edmunds. And that's where the outside spending will come if they don't bring those two back. And I think we may have talked about this, or maybe not, but I was talking about offensive linemen, and I was talking about, okay, if you sign a center, what do you do with Kendrick Green? It means you're probably not adding another guard. I imagine you're not going to sit Green. So Green's got to become a guard. Or if you don't sign a center and you sign another interior offensive lineman, like a guard, like a Laken Tomlinson, for example, from the 49ers, which would be a big get. I think he's like 28 years old or something like that. That's one of the guys that are there, but he's going to be at the top of his class if he doesn't return to San Francisco. So you do something like that. Now, are you voting for Green to be center, or go to the bench and you're just saying it's a failed pick? That's why I don't think they're going to necessarily explore free agency maybe with the line. I think they would prefer, instead of like a Ryan Jensen who's 31 or something like that, if he hits too, and the money that's involved in him, how many years, it's the same thing as Bobby Wagner. Are you going to pay this money for a short-term type of thing? I think they would like to have a veteran there, but I think they would also prefer to have a 10-year starter at minimum that they get through the draft and don't have to pay that much money. So they have like no money right now invested on the offensive side of the ball, and very well could bring back Juju. We mentioned they usually only pay one wide receiver, but I was thinking they're paying nobody on offense. And the contracts that are up is like, it's Minka. That's the extension. They could pay Deontay an extension. We're talking about all these TV deals. The cap should go up again the following year. They could kick some of it into the future. Those are training camp things. When you're talking about Deontay and Minka, those will get done later before the season kicks off if they're going to do them. They could pay two wide receivers. So all of a sudden you're looking at that 28-8. And if you do a deal with like Juju and you have the money that's already earmarked in the secondary, you don't have a whole lot else to spend elsewhere. And that's been I don't think you have enough to do a Bobby Wagner deal unless it's all these void years and other cap is a myth craziness that'll eventually come back to bite you in the ass down the road. That's where I've been at with a lot of the strategy and talking about this. And I know you didn't look at it. I went more in depth with the offensive linemen that were available. The tackles that are available are just, for the most part, these are guys in their 30s on the back end of their career, all across the board, across the entire offensive line. The tackles are the least sexiest of the positions available. And everybody wants to cut Zach Banner to save $5 million when $5 million isn't a drop in the bucket when you're talking about tackle. I could see them go through free agency, not touch tackle, and say, well, we have Banner here, even more so than Chooks, because Chooks may get a deal somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you have Chooks, you're probably not drafting a tackle now. But if you have Banner, you probably are drafting a tackle, and now you're going to have a camp battle. And that's the way I see the Steelers operate, with a cheaper veteran. So we're talking about all these big splashes, and we're going to be heading into free agency starting next week in the tampering period. That's why everything's ramping up right now. I just don't see where they're going to do a lot of outside spending unless they can't bring back Juju or they can't bring back Edmunds, some of their own guys. Then they have to go outside that, and they've already got that money kind of In fact, they don't even have to spend the wide receiver money, to be completely honest. I'd like to see maybe Juju come back. And we've talked about this. He's got the Hines Ward factor. He plays hard, but with a smile. And he's veteran leadership, and he's still young, and he's unselfish. He'll go out there and throw blocks. He'll make the catches across the middle. He'll move the chains. He's doing a lot of dirty work, and that still comes at a cost. You don't have to be wide receiver one to do that type of stuff. So I could see that, and maybe because they got Najee Harris, he's got at least probably 4 years if they fifth-year option him. They got Freiermuth 3 years. All the offensive linemen are young. If they draft other guys, they'll still be young. Quarterback, uncertain. There's no money sunk into that position. They can afford maybe to finally do something where they keep 2 of these players, and it may behoove them to do so depending on who that quarterback ends up being.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I don't think they're going to spend heavily on the offensive line simply because of what is available. I think they always are going to take care of their own first before unless literally there's nobody they want to take care of. But I don't think that's the case here. I think they will try and do the extensions that they can do. They will try and secure the people that they want to keep long term in-house. Then they will start to look at what they can spend. And once they do that, fine. We'll see what happens. I 100% agree that I think where they are going to attempt to spend their money is at corner. And we'll go from there. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do. But I fully expect that's where their biggest need is right now on the defensive side, and they have to shore it up. So they'll figure out a way to do that.
They don't have the draft picks. That's why I'm saying it's like you cut Schobert, and then who else you bring it in? Not necessarily someone younger, not somebody that's a proven type of upgrade. They know the type of player Schobert is. He didn't have he came in mid-training camp. They still had the COVID protocols and things going on. You had that defensive front was just a mess. I think it was just a recipe or a disaster for everyone, and including Joe Hayden being hurt 4 games. He helps seal the edge and stuff as a corner. Don't forget about that. A lot of that, the big holes in the leaky faucet for that run defense still has to do with him being absent there. But we talk about this with the picks and building. It's like, okay, you got to focus in those spots so you can pinpoint what you're going to do in the draft. And I saw people say like Jordan Davis already. We already knew Jordan Davis was a stud, and then he goes out there and runs fast in shorts. What do you have, like a 4.38 or something like that? And now everybody's like, well, if he's there at 20, trust me, it won't break my heart whatsoever if he ends up being the pick. So, but will he be there at 20? Probably not. And there's a guy that's going to be rotational, could be a future for Cam Hayward, but Cam Hayward's still signed for like another 3 years. He's planning on hopefully
and he's still playing at a ridiculous level. He keeps maintaining his level of play, which there's no reason to think, because that's different, right? Defense, the line is a little different. You can usually get longer speed is important, but it's not as critical. So I expect Cam to play out his contract and then retire at that point, and hopefully, going to put up numbers that can get him some consideration for the HOF.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I've already seen people they're starting to throw around. Watson's name will be involved heavily, especially if the rumor of legal things settling by the end of the week are true, which I don't buy that in the case of everything government has always moved slow, and then in the age of the pandemic is moved even slower. So I don't necessarily buy that. But let's talk about the other thing here too, because obviously you don't want to create holes, and you can't just draft offensive line, defensive line, corner, safety, and expect that's last year. You're going to have a 4th round pick if they even have one. I still have to go back and look at what they gave up. A 5th and a 6th, I think they're missing for sure. And then they got another one somewhere maybe. There's been a lot of moves with the Steelers, and they don't have necessarily the same draft collateral. We don't know the compensatory picks yet. But you mentioned it earlier, contend with the Denver Broncos. I don't know. Can you contend? They gave like 9 players away if you consider the future draft picks and everything else.
Oh, my God, the picks. What was it? 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s? I mean, what? First of all, that means you've given away the next 2 years of draft if you're the Steelers. That's just crazy. And I don't care. To me, that's just crazy. The Broncos are basically saying, if we don't win Super Bowls the next 2 years, this trade was a bad deal.
And there's people saying the Broncos won this. Now, I understand getting Russell Wilson, this is what the argument I've had all along. And I'm definitely not doing this for Watson, not knowing if he's going to play or not. And Wilson's still at like $26 million owed, like the other money the Seahawks are still carrying from the prorated bonus and signing bonus and everything like that. Like, Watson is still $30+ million regardless. You make that trade and give up this. But this is what the Texans are looking at now. Some team actually made this trade. This is like the type of thing that you would do for mock draft insanity.
Exactly. Except I wouldn't do it for a quarterback. I'd do it for more picks.
Two firsts, 2 seconds, and I believe those are both this year's. And then a 5th-round pick, Drew Lock, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant. For Wilson and a 4th-round pick next year, I think.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
That would be like the Steelers giving up all of those picks, Mason Rudolph, probably like a healthy maybe Stephon Tuitt. It's hard to find a comp for Shelby Harris because he's a veteran player, but he's still a very solid guy. Like maybe not recognized maybe as a Pro Bowl level player, but on the cusp. And then Noah Fant. That'd be like giving away Pat Freiermuth. I mean, that's insanity. Like, I couldn't believe when I first saw this and I saw some of the picks in Drew Lock, I was like, that's still a little rich for my blood. Then I saw Noah Fant as part of this, and I'm like, what on earth? They were just like, here, take what you would like. Like, just get whatever you want. Like, you're trading sports cards, and you're like, okay, which guys do you need to fill out everything?
Yeah, I've dropped my pants. Just do whatever it is you want to do.
Just absolutely crazy. We are up against it with a shorter show. I'd like to get into this more, but geez, you see that trade, folks? That's what we were talking about. The Steelers, can you imagine having like no picks to fix the offensive line? And then you got Cam Hayward, for example, getting older, and like in the next 2 years, you'd have no capital. You got to use like your 3rd-round picks to fill in your holes if you have one in the secondary or on either of the lines. That's wild. And I understand they had some of the cap space or the room to be able to fit Wilson in there. He's not necessarily the cap buster that Aaron Rodgers is, but man, he wrecks some of your future in one way or another, and giving up now.
Oh, absolutely.
They got to hope this Albert O, the guy with the name nobody could pronounce, fills in at tight end. And, you know, there's some question marks there. And is their defense going to be strong enough? It's not. They gave away Von Miller, obviously, to the Rams before, and all of these other things. So we'll see. They got a new GM there, a new coach, and I guess they were trying to maybe land Aaron Rodgers. They get this guy, and everybody's panicked because we've got another guy in the AFC you got to contend with. But come on, folks. Steelers did beat some of these guys last year, like Josh Allen and stuff like that, with what was considered to be a bad team. Not all hope is lost. They were still a playoff team. I don't necessarily know that that's all on the strength of Ben's arm. Probably more up here, the decision-making that Ben had more than anything in his veteran leadership. You may not have that with whoever the next quarterback is. And if you're getting them from somewhere else, all these names are thrown around. It's not, I'm not necessarily thinking the Steelers are a contender no matter who's there. And I'm not thinking if Ben's coming back at age 40 either. So they got to improve in some other areas. I just, everybody just thinks throw Russell Wilson out there and he'll immediately jump into Super Bowl contention, and I just don't think that's the case. You would look a lot like the Seahawks did last year. So, Brian, thanks for joining me, my friend. Good to have you.
Always a pleasure.
Always
good to be back.
Early morning, up against it, but we got on the same schedule. That's why we're a little bit in a rush, but we'll come back later this week. Hopefully have some other news for all of you out there. Take a look at some of the defensive players that are on the free agent market before all this stuff pops off starting next week. So until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. My name is Joe. His name is Brian. And as we encourage all of you fine folks and 2%ers out there to do each and every time we close out the show, be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.